Hi guys, Dave Lawrence from the California Type Foundry here. The next step, we just want to check out some of our side bearings just to make sure we're about right here. I don't know if I want that quite that much. Um, let's, I'm not sure why I put that at more than that. Sometimes you don't want the G really smashing into the O and want that. Okay, so that looks pretty nice. Let's see here. I'm not sure what to do. A lot of times what I do is I set these ones, people sometimes set so that they're hitting. I'm not too big of a fan of that. So this is a similar font to the one I'm doing. Sometimes it's a good idea just for the research. The other one was Kalendas. Is this one. Okay, so this does retain some space in between there, but it is very reduced from the H. So if I put the I's together, that has quite a bit of space. I guess that's because the serifs are so small. But then you put the V's together, and now you have a lot less space. So then if you have words that are sort of a mix, like Ivy, then you have this thing that I don't quite like, which is, let's make that bigger. I don't like, especially for display, this might be okay at small sizes where you can't notice it, but I'm not a fan of this. When I was studying Bodoni, he didn't really do that. So the old way was to make the serifs have about all the same, at the tip, have about the same amount. This is significant more. You can see just where the cursor is blinking there compared to there. That is quite a bit of difference. Also, it looks like the top serif is a little bit shorter than the bottom one, possibly. Stuff like that can make it look very uneven if you have a mix of diagonal letters. So I was just showing words like when you have a word like Aaron, you sort of have the diagonals and then you have straights here. So I call these straight rounds because it's a straight plus a round. When you have these diagonal letters, it's not so, okay, so a lot of fonts, they will put the diagonals at a lot less. So that's this font of some of the fonts that I'm in the same genre of the one that I'm making. Okay. This one is interesting. Okay, I sort of like that. This is a great strategy. I do like this one. What he did is, so this is Matthew Carter's version. He made let's see if it does that when you have eyes together. Okay, so those are very far apart. And then these are very close together. But the way that he makes it okay is that when you have a diagonal next to one of these, he makes the side bearing so low that it's actually going to touch like this. And since the curve is of the right sort of shape, it actually looks almost like a continuous curve. So that is smart designing on his part. The other thing, okay, so this is not going to touch. I was just going to see, is anything going to touch us up there? Okay. Okay, that's sort of weird. When you get the T's, okay, the T's also have sort of a negative space there. So that's sort of, they're going to crash like that. But I guess the idea is to make it feel like it's handwriting without having to do a bunch of ligatures. This is a little bit less effective on the A and the A, but it doesn't make you feel like this one. I look at it and I see the space difference, and that bothers me. This one, I see that this one is taller, but it doesn't quite bother me. It still looks like they're just sort of connecting when I just look at it. It doesn't bother me like this one where I immediately, when I look at this, I see the word and I see, oh wait, space is uneven. And for a display, I think this might be okay for text. This is a common method. This is a Robert Slimbach method. Adobe uses this a lot. Other places, I think commercial type doesn't quite use this as much on some of their stuff. They're a little bit more even in the spacing. So I tend to like it a little bit more like this. I want to feel like everything is very evenly spaced. If there is extra space between the A's, I don't care. That's just because of how the A's are made. So this is going to have space in, but this is going to have more space, and this is going to have less space, and that's okay because we're not putting this at text sizes where people don't have to read this fluidly and have to think, oh, this has to be exactly the same color. So with Frutiger and his some of the different people there of the Swiss school, everything was about color. Everything had to be even color-wise. So, but in order to do that, sometimes you have to make these more noticeable gaps. You have to make those uneven, and so I don't really like that. So a lot of what I do is I do the spacing next, and this is just example spacing. So the H's, I use H as my main one, so I have that set at 15. And I just set all this stuff equal to H. And I set all these things equal to H, and you have a pretty good looking side bearings in 1 minute. This just can take you 1 minute if you have it all organized. So what you do is you just put all the similar things together, like lefts. It puts all those similar characters together, and then you can tweak it there. This is too much on this. Okay, so there's some things. I had some other people helping me with this. Some things not quite right there, but you can get an idea. And then what you want is then, some combinations and not feel like they're totally in a different realm of possibilities. Like this, I want to feel somewhat similar. In this font, everything's a lot of different shapes, so it's not necessary to make sure this is exactly the same as this. When you have fonts where this is exactly the same shape as this, then yes, that's pretty important. It's important to make sure that your finishing serifs, like the stuff on the C, the G, the T, the S, the E, the F, the L, the bottom one on the L, and the top and the bottom one on the Z, you want to make sure that those are in the sort of the same ballpark. So that way, if I put an F and a Z next to each other, I feel like this is not all of a sudden totally crazy different. H, let me choose the H and the Z. C, I can't really put that. So this has the spacing here. That's because of this here. So that is sort of a kerning because this goes farther out. Can't really put the Z any closer to the H. I might actually want to add some space into that part of it. Let's put a +5. Okay, so if you want to do percentages instead of these pluses here, then what you do is you say rent, which means return integer. You put that in a bracket or a parentheses, and you say H times 1.33, which is about what we added to it, okay? Something like that, okay? So now we have that added 33% more, so that gives us, I like using percentages a lot because, so that's 140%, because that gives you an actual idea of what numbers, when you're just adding stuff, it's hard to know actually what is going on there. Okay. I'm trying to get the connection points more even rather than just I want the closest spaces between everything to be the most even, because that's what my eye, when I'm looking at something very large, that's what my eye looks at first. But then with when you get to lowercase, and so that's why you can have really things like this font, the source has the V is wider than the A. So that's a little bit weird. That for a text font, that would not be so good because it's going to look more uneven. Usually you want this less because then that way the color you make more equal, because this is going to be darker color because of the bar in between. So that's something that might look good for display, to have a very nice, large, thick V so that you can go like something like that and have it look all epic and beautiful. This is Dave Lawrence from the California Type Foundry. Thanks so much for joining me, and I hope you enjoy this video series of FontLab 7, and I hope it helps you out. Thanks.